Alright, hello everyone. Yes, I'm in my scrubs, but I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today. I'm going to be actually practicing with my sterile compounding kit. Now, I should say before I get going on this, I do not obviously have a sterile spot here. This is just like me trying to move along with the video. It's just for practice. I'm obviously not trying to keep my stuff sterile here. So I do go get some alcohol swabs. I have lots of those around because I do an self-injection for my Aimovig, so that's not a problem. Unfortunately, well, I do have a mask around, but in terms of like the gown and like stuff like that, I don't have that. We were given the sterile gloves, and I'm actually gonna start with seeing how much fun these are to put on. Don't criticize the lack of PPE. We've done a few things now that I want to practice with, like some of the stuff that we've learned and just like going along with the video, basically seeing how easy this is or how hard it is. Get some practice in before I actually go for in-person stuff, because if you've done at least some of it, it's probably easier, I'm sure, to actually do well with the labs. Now, we do get practice time when we're there, but want to get the basics down before then, basically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go along with the videos that they've given us so far and try and inject some sterile water into a mini bag, because that's where we've gotten to so far. Oh, I guess I should lead with, okay, why do I have this stuff? So part of the scope of practice for a pharmacy technician in at least Canada and in Saskatchewan is you can do sterile compounding in the hospital. And because of the techniques involved in all of that, it takes a lot of practice to be able to do this, because you need to make sure that you keep this stuff safe from microbial contamination and safe for your patient. All right, well, getting those on was quite the challenge. I definitely didn't do it right, but that's why we have the sterile compounding kits to practice. I wonder if I almost need a small too. They're a little bit big. That was a lot more difficult than it looked.
All right, for these sections, I am going to be just kind of talking about what I noticed. So here I was just basically trying to see how hard it was to get it to the needle to fully twist on and see where it like kind of is an over twist, because if you over twist it, it is not good. Here I am just, well, I'm not doing this right to begin with because I'm covering the plunger. But in this part, I'm trying to pull back the plunger and I noticed it was really sticky, like really hard to get it going at first. And then I'm just trying to get a feel for like how sticky the plunger is at this point. Here I'm removing the needle cap and placing the needle cap down on the alcohol swab. And I'm trying to figure out where the bevel is because we need to put bevel up to get it into the vial. There I'm injecting it, so you need to do that on a 45-degree angle and then push down. And I did this a couple times just to kind of get a feel for it. Now here is where I really struggled. This is where I'm trying to milk the dose out. You can kind of see I'm quite struggling. I don't even really have this at the right angle, to be honest with you, but I was just trying to get a feel for how hard this was. And actually milking the vial was one of the hardest parts of this entire practicing, and it's why I decided to end up doing 2 pulls and 2 injections, is just because I wanted to really get a feel for how to milk the vial. Now, another thing I was also struggling with was I wasn't putting the vial, like the needle into the air to push the air in. Instead, I was trying to push the air into the liquid, so that obviously isn't going to work and it's going to cause bubbling quite badly. Here I was starting to get out some liquid and starting to get a little bit better, but honestly, this first time was just a massive struggle. And I was really struggling just with everything in general, just with this milking process. It was really hard to know what I was doing, and I just want to emphasize how much I was struggling with this. It was really hard. Now at this point, you can start to see I've really got quite a bit in there. I don't know if the amount of liquid that you're pulling up really makes a difference, but it seemed to. So here I'm just trying to knock out the bubbles because you don't want to have any bubbles in your dose because otherwise your dose is inaccurate. So I was really trying to get a feel for how to knock out the bubbles in this case, which is why I spent some decent amount of time doing it. Then I put the vial back down. Here I'm recapping the needle. Ideally, this would be done a little bit more horizontally.
That is also a lot more difficult than it looks. My problem was, though, so when I was going into the vial, when I was pushing out the air, I wasn't allowing the needle to come like into where there was space. So I think that's what I have to do the next time is like, so like, I don't know if you guys can see it, but like this, and then, but there's like space in there, so you kind of have to, when you're like at the angle, you kind of have to like push the air out into the air and then pull it back when you've got it into the thing, which makes a lot more sense when you can actually like see it. Actually, I know I have some air bubbles in here, but I'm just practicing right at the moment. Now let's get into the stuff that I gotta review for tomorrow.
In this section here, I was just taking a look at the expiry date and lot number just to get used to doing that.
Makes a lot more sense when you actually do it with them. How is she swabbing it? I can't even see that because the syringe is in the way.
Alright, so in this section here, I'm once again taking another alcohol swab to put it down for the lid. And now I'm actually injecting into the mini bag. So you're not going to be able to see this, but I was trying to get a really good feel for how to get the injection into the port of the mini bag. And you'll notice I'm holding it a little bit longer too, and that's just to make sure that the full injection is out. Now I flipped over the bag because we're taught to do that so that if you're doing multiple doses at once, it is easier to know which bags you have injected medication with and which ones you haven't. Then I pulled back the dose, and now I'm still trying to pull back the dose to what I injected, and this is just for the final check again.
So then what we do when we're done injecting is we have to take our syringe and pull it back to what we had injected into the bag so that it can be final checked. I'm really happy that they gave us these kits because this is a lot harder than what it looks like. Yeah, there's definitely like some dead space in there. Alright, I ended up deciding to inject that too, just because why not? But yeah, that is definitely a lot harder than it looks. And I'm curious to know, like, it's really hard to tell in the videos, but how far you should be injecting the needle into the port is like really hard to tell, honestly. But anyways, that's kind of like what we have to do with this practice. So I think that's all the practice I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna like really watch just for like how to do everything now because I just want to make sure that I know what I'm doing for the quiz tomorrow. This was just kind of like actually getting practice to like get an injection into a mini bag. And I don't want to use any more stuff just because I have to have supplies for like, the rest of the practice. So I'm gonna just do a couple for right now.